Silver Doctors live on air Wednesday, the last day of the month of July, and we have a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to cover. Excited to be back online with my better half over here, Mr. Paul Half Dollar. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Mike. Man, it's been rough the past couple of weeks. Driving this car myself, almost ran it off the cliff 2 weeks ago. Had technical difficulties for 3 minutes. I misconfigured the software for the streaming platform, and I was stuck in this audio loop. And I was like, oh my goodness, my keyboard ninja skills came out.
Yeah.
But it's good to see you back. How you been doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, my friend. Happy to be back. And so prior to going live, just the technical difficulties of ironing everything out to produce a show is not that easy. So for everybody that's watching who think it's just piece of cake, try it for yourself and you'll find out. So, but yeah, Paul, it's great to be back, my friend. Thanks for holding it down. Definitely got a chance to check you and Mrs. Anderson out. You guys did a great job of holding it down, and so appreciate you for keeping things plugging along. And so here we are today. So let's get into a variety of subject matter. So as people can tell from today's subject matter, we're going to be talking about the metal side of things. You got some things you want to share. Also, I came across some information that's very sad, but yet very indicative of where we're currently at in reference to the whole China situation. Then we got the FOMC today. I think you said about 2 o'clock or so, going to deliver their remarks. And so for the last 2 days, they've been deciding the fate of the Federal Reserve note for the most part. So looking forward to talking about that. So let's get started, man. Right off the rip, want to welcome everybody to the live stream. As always, if you have any thoughts or comments or questions, feel free to let us know in the chat portion, and if we can stop ranting, we'll try to get to those questions and go from there. So, Paul, kick us off. So, what do you want to start off with today?
Well, let's start off with the FOMC meeting. Today is the most important Fed FOMC meeting ever. Mm-hmm. That's how they always build these things up because. Yeah. Today the Fed is reversing course, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
First of all, we don't have tight monetary policy right now. We have loose monetary policy.
Yeah.
But officially, when the Fed cuts interest rates here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will officially have reversed course, right? We've flipped that switch and go from tight monetary policy to loose monetary policy.
Yeah.
Right now, there's, everybody's, looking at a 25 basis point cut. There could be a 0.5% cut. There's about a 20% probability of that. Nobody is expecting the Fed to hold, and probably, just like they want to drive interest rates negative, there's probably a negative number of people that think the Fed is actually going to raise today.
Yeah.
So, but what does that mean, right? What that means is, this is not dollar bullish. There's no way you can argue that loose monetary policy, infinite credit creation, inflation, that any of this stuff is dollar bullish, right? Yeah. This is dollar bearish.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons why I'm saying is that gold and silver can see the light at the end of the tunnel because, last time around when they cut rates during the global financial crisis, right? Everybody's like, oh, well, this is it. Gold and silver are going to take off now, but it didn't happen. Obviously, the manipulators are pulling the strings for the last decade. But, this time around, I don't think that they're going to have that same amount of luck. And I think gold and silver really are going to start getting that bid here.
Yeah.
Everything's just kind of been held in a range over the past couple of days. On Monday, I said look for silver 16.15 to 16.65. It's been exactly in that range. Gold's been in my range. Under 14.50 here. But I think that they're about to start taking off. And if the Fed cuts by 50 basis points, which is less likely, then I think gold and silver are really going to start taking off and possibly even this week. Why? Well, why is because, rate cuts, right? Fed interest rate policy as in going to cutting interest rates, the Fed funds rate, the overnight interbank lending rate, right? Cutting that rate is bullish for gold and silver because what they're doing is they're looking for more credit to enter the economy, more dollars to enter the economy. And, what are gold and silver? They're hedges against inflation. They protect against this. Right. So as the Fed works their darndest to devalue the dollar, right, if we can use our dollars to buy gold and silver and store it outside of the system,
Uh-oh.
You still with me, Mike?
Yes, I am. You went black for a minute, but you're back. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I was just saying that, so gold and silver stored outside the system as the Fed, and they're just beginning this new loose easing monetary policy, right? Mm-hmm. So, gold and silver are your hedges against what's coming from the Fed.
Yeah.
And where they've been able to stave off gold and silver's rise for the last 10 years, forcibly hammering it down in 2011, I don't think they're going to be as lucky this time. And here's the other thing I'm thinking, right? Everybody is so sure that the Fed doing what they're doing now by cutting interest rates and moving on an easing cycle. Mm-hmm. We're still live, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, everything's good.
Everybody assuming that, what they're doing is going to be bullish for the stock markets. Everybody is usually wrong, right? That's how it works. The crowd is usually wrong. So, I'm thinking that if we don't get to sell the news today and the stock market sells off today, I'm not so sure that this time around all these rate cuts are going to be bullish for the stock market because everybody is so sure that it is, right? Yeah. And, I've got to take the contrarian view on everything. I don't know. That's just how I'm hardwired. Any thoughts there, Mike? I kind of took that in a lot of different directions.
No, that's perfectly fine. So, yeah, as you were talking about, just giving painting a picture of as to what's happening, I actually pulled up some articles. And so I had something showing. And so even the mainstream media has jumped on the fact that there is a cut coming. And that's the thing, why are the mainstream news channels so confident that a cut is coming? Amongst the narrative of an expansion, the economy is so great. So we got Trump saying the economy is so strong. So even yesterday, doing one of his little, spiels before he got on the plane, he ranted about the need for the Fed. They have to cut because if they didn't start raising, we would already have 30,000 down. And so, just stuff like that. So we got him saying one thing, but yet, they're baking into the cake that they need to cut. And as you referenced, it won't be very bullish for the dollar. I think it's going to be problematic because what it's going to reveal is that over 10 years of unprecedented monetary policy, the new norm will be easing. The new norm will pose a threat to savers, investors, and you name it, all in the name of keeping the too big to fail banks up and running and somewhat profitable as best as they can. Because once they drop, if they drop today, there is no point of return unless there's a crisis. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if you have a quarter point, a half a point, then what? That won't solve the issues that's being created because this is a globally systemic situation we're facing here because even if we're cutting here, and so I think in September, ECB is going to cut and start talking about quantitative easing. So we're going to have the biggest banks on the planet deciding to all cut at a time where we're supposed to be in good times. So what happens when a crash does come? You know what I'm saying? So what type of policies will then be rolled out? Because where can you drop? How low can you go is a question. Now the question is how low can you go?
Yeah, I think that next time we're going to, everybody's talking about next time. Good points, all valid and good points. I think, everybody's talking about next time. Well, they're going to stimulate Main Street next time. What's that going to look like? I am personally looking for Cash Flow Clunkers 2.0. I have a feeling that's going to come out. I also have a feeling that, get ready for 50 to 75-year mortgages. That's what's coming, right? That's how they're going to stimulate the economy. So they're going to be looking to stimulate with credit, right? Ooh. Because it's not with money because nobody's got any money in the United States anymore. So they're going to be looking to stimulate the economy with, 50-year mortgages, Clash for Clunkers 2.0, things like that. But yeah, where does it go from here? It goes there on the fiscal side, also into the negative rates territory, right? That they want to take us there.
Yeah.
Another thing that Trump said on Monday on the tweet is that, I can't remember the exact word. I put this in my article today in my midweek update, but it was about how, the Fed is going to cut rates, but it won't be enough, right? So whatever the Fed does today by cutting rates, President Trump saying that is not going to be enough. And he's like, but either way, we're still going to win. And I'm just thinking, the Fed, right, and our government, right, one and the same, working together, are sticking it to savers,
Yeah.
right? They're just sticking it to people who save in U.S. dollars. How is this winning, right? How, like me as a deplorable, right? How am I winning if those dollars that I have in my wallet are losing out to inflation and they're devaluing monthly on a monthly basis? That is not winning. That's me falling further and further behind, right? And everybody's talking, and that's just the thing that irks me, right? It's all over the mainstream media. Is just everybody's talking about, oh, well, this is what's necessary. The Fed's doing the right thing. They're not doing the right thing. This is not what's necessary. What's necessary is the purge of all the bad stuff out of our system. That's what is needed, right? The ones that are saying this is the right thing to do, well, they're just enabling and protecting and apologizing for the status quo, right? And the status quo is not your average deplorable. Your average deplorable is not finding any of this rate cut stuff good at all. Right. Those are my thoughts there. Because, it goes on the back of what's coming. What's coming is going to be more pressure for continued cuts, right? So we know that.
Watch this. It's not necessarily like how you said, what's coming, but I think it's not a matter of what's coming. It's what's already occurring. And so, so this is where I get into the idea that, we're already at the end of this cycle of debt, this experiment. We're a part of we got a front row seat to the greatest monetary experiment in human history right now, because everything is digital. Everything is predominantly led by digital assets. And so right now, currently, we're in the midst of them scrambling. Like, this is a scramble. 2008, I always say Uncle Sam was on life support and he's damn near gone. And so the only way they can keep the post going is to have injected him. I love how commentators always talking about, especially Peter Schiff, talk about the heroin, like they've been injecting heroin into the system and the attic and all those comparisons there. So we're at the point now where Uncle Sam is borderline about the flatline. So the question is how to scramble to keep him going, because all the things that he's taken on, all the obligations Uncle Sam has taken on, all these debt instruments, the treasury, everyone we owe, all the unfunded liabilities, Medicaid, Social, all the promises, all that stuff is on Uncle Sam's back, and it so happens to be on taxpayers' dime and our taxpayers' credit card. But right now, we're already in the midst of something that's imploding right now, and that's why I'm so harped about. If they cut today like everyone thinks they're going to cut, that signals the true panic to me. Like there has to be a panic, because actually I'm gonna pull up in a minute. Actually, as we speak, I'm gonna pull up this from the Federal Reserve Governor.com, the monetary policy webpage. So here's the current committee of people that are actually in charge of our monetary system. So these people here, they operate right now on our behalf. And so these people, apart from Jerome Powell and Mr. Williams, I don't know who the rest of these people are, but they control the fate of our financial existence right now. And that's don't you think that's very scary?
Yeah, it's not just very scary, but who are they to know that what they need to be doing right now is manipulating interest rates 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Suppressing interest rates all day, every single day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know these things. The free markets are what knows these things. So not only are they, messing with the fate and the future of America, but quite frankly, they're basically playing that they're these all-powerful, all-knowing, monetary entities, and they're not, right?
Yeah.
They're not that at all,
yeah.
And they can't be, right? Because only the market, the true free market, right? What we have now are not free markets, but only the true free market would know, right? Because that's based on individuals making decisions on their own, getting together in, a consensual transaction of whatever that transaction may be. Yeah. So they don't know, right? They don't know. But by setting the price of money, by manipulating it, then they're basically saying, where they think it should be. But not only that, they're choosing the winners and they're choosing the losers, right? And who are the losers? The losers are the people that are working hard, with their blood, sweat, and tears to be able to put a little bit away for the future, right? That's who they're picking to lose, right? This is not, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, this is just, this is great. They're finally listening to the markets. And then another thing that gets me, this is the other thing that gets me, and I guess I got to rant for a second too.
No problem, go ahead.
They're like, well, if the stock market cracks and it goes down, well, that's just going to create so many problems. And, it's like, well, we've got to face the bad, right? I mean, there's just no way around this. So the longer we wait, right, the stock market has to come down. It's too overvalued, right? Unless it just hyperinflates away.
Yeah.
So unless we face our problems, their problems are just going to get worse, right? So well, they've got to do this. It's like the analogy I like to use, right, about taking Imodium when you got Montezuma's revenge, and you just let him have his revenge, right? He's got to have that revenge, and you just got to let it happen, and it's not going to be pleasant. But that's how you get better faster, right? Yeah. So that's just my little rant there. When people are like, well, because the talk is so much of the economy hinges on the stock market, right? The stock market is not the economy, and the economy is not the stock market. Right. Especially with what we call the free markets and capitalism today, as warped and twisted as they are, right? Yeah. So I don't agree with that at all as well. Yeah. Thoughts there, Mike?
Yeah, I do agree 100%. And so I want to, before I go into, I could have easily went into my rant there about, to want to add to that. That's a great part about this. Like, everyone has a great opinion. Everyone has an opinion about what's going on, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. So actually, I want to get into the chat, because if I don't go to chat right now, we probably won't get there. So I want to acknowledge a couple people for taking time to join us this afternoon. As always, if you're enjoying the back and forth, don't be afraid to give it a thumbs up, just to donate a thumbs up to the channel. Your support is always appreciated. Or, real quick, if you don't mind, click the share button and share this stream with some of your family, friends via your social media, so more people can find out what we do over here at Silver Doctor. So we got Jordan from Denver. We got Christopher K. says, can't we get our own community going? Low blood pressure's in the building. We got Harry. What else? We got Andrew. Burn, baby, burn. So if you have any questions, make sure you do at Silver Doctor so it'll highlight, so we'll be able to see it and go from there. So we got Vut, Ewa, we got Darius. Says the Fed will most likely keep rates where they are. Gold and silver will have a bad few days. So Darius believes that they're not going to cut, and silver and gold won't respond, or it's going to be bad.
I was thinking about that today, right? And that's a very good point. I'm not sure who made that point, but that's an interesting point because, I'm trying to think this through this morning. Mm-hmm. I didn't get very far on it just because, ultimately I think that just like, the cartel is always going to make more money suppressing gold and silver than letting it rise. Mm-hmm. So the only problem I have with this logic is that the Fed and the banks and their evil corruption are going to make more money cutting rates than they are letting rates hold. Mm-hmm. But think about this, right? President Trump has been pouncing Jerome Powell and the Fed constantly for,
it has to be
embarrassing. Times, Mike, in the last 2 weeks, 2 more times, he tweeted out pumping money again. That is 4 times this month that he says pump money. 4 times, right? So here's the thing. If the Fed holds, right, that's kind of like the Fed proving, right, in quotes, their independence, right, and their independence from political influence. Mm-hmm. So, I would not be surprised if the Fed shocks the markets and holds today. That would not surprise me one bit. The only reason why I can't go as far as to say that that's what I think they're going to do is because just like with gold and silver, right, they can make money on the upside letting gold and silver prices rise, but they make so much more money by suppressing the prices, right? So the same token. And then it comes down to this, right? If the Fed holds today, then, the markets could start tanking immediately, theoretically. And then President Trump would have his ammunition to say, oh, well, see that? The Fed didn't listen to me, and look what's going on now. So there's a few different dynamics to that right there. So it's kind of like, this Mexican standoff.
Yeah, watch this. So with that same thought there, what came to mind as you were explaining that was that, okay, if they hold today, clearly President Trump has been openly and just, bashing the Fed, as well as Obama. Like it seems like I've watched several, of his little rants where he talks about the economy being so great and he compares it to the prior administration, how we're blowing it out the water currently to him. But yet, how much more bashing can an entity take before they give in and say, okay, hey, because the more Trump tweets about the Fed, he's the first president that I'm aware of that has talked about monetary policy in the Fed with no problem whatsoever, with no remorse whatsoever. So he's not done. And so if they don't cut, they're going to get more backlash because you better believe Trump going to He's going to probably start talking that we got to remove Jerome Powell. Like I regret putting Jerome Powell in, and however that came about. He's going to shine more light on the Fed in a negative sense, which is only going to wake up more Americans because we have a president now who's bashing the issue of our national currency. So that shows some type of disconnect there. So it can be a lot of bad publicity if they don't. But another thought was, what if to piss Trump off, they decide to raise rates a quarter point just because they want to show who the true boss is?
Yeah, right. I mean, so there's so many unknowns on that. Or then the other thing, right, would be to cut rates even further, right? Because that would also throw it for a loop. So, there's a lot of different ways that this could play out, and those are good points. And, as far as the President Trump attacking the Fed, because he does, right? There's no denying this, no matter whether you're supportive or not of Trump or indifferent. There's no denying he attacks the Fed.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? Every time he attacks the Fed, all the people around him are always doing like these counterbalances to try and counterbalance it out. Like on Monday, Larry Kudlow was on CNBC in front of the White House on the White House lawn talking about, the dollar's the preeminent currency and the United States is strong and our economy is the strongest in the world and our dollar is the strongest in the world. So where Trump's, openly talking about stuff that are just going to kill the dollar, all those little yes men and his yes woman, like, right? Judy Shelton, she's not even officially a pick still, right? But she's a yes woman for Trump. She's talking about, oh, look at it. Well, the dollar is strong. See, they say it again on Monday.
Yeah.
So like there's this counterbalance there. Even though the overwhelming message is, we've got to have, what I said this morning, we've got to stick it to the savers because that's what they're doing. They're sticking it to the savers.
Yeah.
But also just to jump back on the chat though, because I don't know if any questions came in, but the last 2 weeks I was horrible addressing questions in the chat. 2 weeks ago because of technical difficulties, and then just last week because there was so much going on. So definitely want to try and address a couple of the questions today if we have time.
Sounds good. So I'll go back to that. So Darius, I appreciate that thought there. Gave us something to share our thoughts on. So let's scroll down a little bit more. I got says I got 1812 ounces. I got 1,812 ounces of silver. Is that enough? So I got 1,812 ounces of silver. Is that enough? It's a question that was put out there. So so that's another thing. I mean, we can touch on that briefly because we have how much, and so I was thinking about it the other day because we've been taught in this digital paper world to think about how much in regards to a dollar amount or a note amount, currency amount. But I'm thinking like, it'll be like the counter thought to that would be how much in terms of weight. And so, a person says 1,800 here. I got Chris Dwayne, another YouTuber out there, is talking about 1,000 ounces of silver is ideal. But of course, everybody's situation is unique. But given the current price of metals now, regardless of whatever your allocation is based on your financial situation, like right now might be the cheapest that you'll ever be able to acquire as much as you are able to. Because if gold goes to several thousands, like people suggest, or several hundred for silver, you just purchase less of that. So there is no amount, and to sum all that up, there's no amount that would be ideal for you because it's more so about just having possession overall, in my opinion. So just my
there is that's a great point. And then let me piggyback on that for just 1 second, if I could. Because yes, I would agree that if you are willing and able, the more the better, right? Mm-hmm. And you can never have enough. But to make that point, I don't know if you remember when the artist formerly known as Prince was sacrificed a couple years back. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, so his estate was like, it's public, right? It's like filed in the court, like what his estate was.
Yeah.
And, I can't remember the exact details, right? But like just going off of the filing in the court with his estate, he had like $50,000 in the bank, right? But what else did he have, right? He had like 10 or 20 nice cars, like I'm talking about like classic cars, Range Rovers, Impalas, old Impalas, stuff like that, right? Yeah. But he also had kilo gold bars, right? So he had his money out of the system, right? Because he didn't trust it. So that's my point of view when I say the more the better, because I don't trust the system, right? I think the system is evil, fraudulent, and corrupt.
Yeah.
So I think that, so to answer that question, you can never have enough of taking your money out of the system and converting it into an honest system, right?
Yeah.
And that's what gold and silver are, right? They're honest money, they're God's money, they're sound money, they're however you want to call it, but they're all those things at once.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
that's just a little rant of mine there.
Yeah. No, so as you're speaking, I pulled up an article, typed in the Prince the Artist estate. And so according to this article, which was last year, says 2 years later, Prince's heirs have still not received a penny of his estate. And so it looks like it says not even a penny of his estimated $200 million estate. And so it looks like it's locked up, frozen up, or whatever. I don't know what's going on. So I remember seeing that and seeing that he had some gold like in his home, in his vault. So my thought was, I wonder, was Prince aware of the monetary system and understand the true value of gold, or what? Because it's not too often that we hear about people such as high profile celebrities holding on to gold, and when they pass, the mainstream media mentioning it that they had gold. So that's I found it to be very interesting when I read that years ago.
Yeah, it was like 45 or 50 kilobars. I mean, we're talking about a lot of gold, right?
Yeah.
Not an insignificant amount, but a lot of gold.
Yeah.
And the cars was another thing that struck me as something that's very interesting.
Yeah.
That I found out as well. But yeah, so if you don't trust the system, then because ultimately the system is going to bite us, right? And that's what they're going to be signaling today, and nobody's going to ask them the difficult questions, right? As far as why are they doing this? They're all softballs, they're t-balls, and he's just going to step up to the plate and swing, right? And every hit's going to be a home run, whether he hits the question right or he misses it completely. It doesn't matter. So.
Yeah, watch this. On another note, this is off subject, but I thought this because I remember sharing this article not long ago, and it's about. I want to know if you happen to see it, where a passenger attempts to smuggle $50,000 worth of gold through the airport security in the grossest way possible. So I think it was in New York, just recently. Somebody tried to smuggle $50,000 worth of gold into the, I think out of the country, into the country, whatever it was, but. Like the fact that gold has been getting a lot of attention these days from somebody found a 2 kilogram nugget in Australia. They find a nugget still like to this day in Australia because there's so much, I guess, untapped land over there. But anyway, just a little side note. But yeah, so I'm noticing gold more in the mainstream news these days more than ever. So I thought I would share that. But
yeah, and it's going to be hard for them to ignore it, right? I mean, they've been ignoring it up to now. But now that it's at multi-year highs, so that's another thing, right? From last week when you weren't here. Like last week, my theme was, gold and silver are going to have to withstand the mainstream media anti-gold propaganda. Yeah. And we put up like 3 examples of it last week. Yeah. But not only was it the anti-gold propaganda, but it was record stock market, right? It was... I can't remember all the different things, but there were so many different things that could have negatively affected the prices of gold and silver. And gold and silver maintained, right? They maintained throughout that week. Because that was a thing, right? Because last week, right, the week before the Fed meets, they maintain radio silence. So they don't want to spook the markets in any way. So they don't give interviews on CNBC. They don't release all these statements and they're not making speeches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, my point was, well, since the mainstream media is not going to be drooling over the Fed, they're going to be bashing gold and silver because that's like their favorite thing to do. And that's what they did last week, And as a matter of fact, one of the headlines right off the bat on Monday was like the Japanese yen is more lucrative or more attractive hedge. That's the word. More attractive hedge than gold, right? And that's just straight up for the algos to parse that information and then buy the in and sell gold, right? So it's like, but yeah, the mainstream is going to have a lot harder time to ignore gold and silver, especially silver once silver starts breaking here. Because when we're talking about inflation adjusted, $50 is nothing. Silver's going to blow through $50 like it's nothing. I really do believe that, and I think it's coming quick. And I think it's going to come fast. But anyway, thoughts on any of that, Mike?
Yeah, I do agree 100%. And that's the thing, because of this cycle that's coming to an end of just how it's going to be a matter of how much debt or how much currency are they going to be bringing into circulation to keep this thing up before the world catches on. And then everyone starts scrambling from their currencies. So that means people are going to be looking to get out of a lot of assets, so-called assets, as they find out that there's no buyers on the other end. So the Fed, I believe, is going to end up having to purchase a lot of those things that people are looking to get out of because, as I've done articles before about, and especially in the UK, how there's hedge funds and money managers that are taking people's currency and they're putting it into things that are not very liquid. So people are trapped. And so they've actually kept people from actually withdrawing. So, more people find out about that stuff, it's going to cause a major panic and people are going to look to sell even more. And then who's going to be the one buying on the other end? Because I know personally myself, I'm not interested in any financial illusions or things of that nature that, are going to be exposed as not real assets, in my opinion. So, yeah. But
well said.
Yeah, go ahead. So let's get back to the chat. Let me see any questions out there. And let me go and see. Why are gold? Okay, it says why are gold, silver falling on the day Fed is cutting rates? Strange. So I didn't look at the current price, but
I think I don't know if that's like what is that called? Like not irony, but sarcasm. Yeah. I don't know if that's sarcasm or not, but I mean that's just standard practice, right? You always smash gold and silver going into the FOMC statement, so that's just standard.
And I think about how interconnected everything is to where the whole goal is to keep everyone in the mainstream system of in all these products that have been spun off as investment vehicles. And so anything that poses as a back door or a way out is a threat. And so the best way to make sure you maintain confidence in the old system is to make sure everything around it looks very questionable as well.
which makes you wonder why there's so much openness to the cryptos, right? Why is there so much mainstream openness to the cryptos, right? Because they're going to close that system off, right? The only true system that you can have that is truly free and outside of any kind of anything at all is physical gold and silver in your hand, right? Mm-hmm. Which a couple of the people in the chat are talking about junk silver, constitutional silver. I don't have a problem calling it junk silver.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it. I think the term is called reclaiming the symbol of the oppressor, right? So they'll say it's junk silver, but it is like far from junk, right? Junk is the last thing that it is, right? I got this Franklin half here. But here's this point that I want to make about junk silver.
Yeah.
Constitutional silver.
Yeah.
The eagle on the back of the Franklin half. I don't know if I can zoom in there, but I really love the eagle on the back of that Franklin. I don't know. It's cool. It just has that whole I don't know. It's just a really neat design. I really like the Franklin half there. Yeah. But anyway, here's my point about 90%, right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of talked about 90% last week, so I want to talk about it for 1 second this week too, because last week I talked about 90% is awesome because you have a couple things going on, right? It's historic, right? So it's not like when push comes to shove, as long as Sunshine Mint's got some silver blanks, they can make as many Sunshine Mint Eagle rounds as they want, right?
Yeah.
But 90%, that's already been made, right? And we know the dates, and it stopped in 1964, and there's no more of it, right? So it's a finite supply. Secondly, you can increase, in value, not just based on the price of silver. This is a really nice one. This has got some history to it. I like it when it's got a little bit of grit inside of it. So you got, so you've got not just the silver appreciation, but also the premium appreciation on the silver itself.
Yeah.
And here's the cool thing, right? Because 90% is silver in general is so unloved right now.
Yeah.
You can get 90% dirt cheap. And here's the point that I want to make.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about fractional silver being worthless or whatever. I don't think it is. I think it has its place, right? People talk about fractional silver